What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to episode 19 of the Gridiron Across the U.S. podcast. Today, we will be doing our free agency recap and going into detail of some of the bigger events that happened during free agency and one that happened the day before, but you'll see. We'll get into that. Without not much else to talk about, you want to get right into it?
Yeah, we'll start off with that one deal that did happen before free agency. Myles Garrett previously had requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns.
That's not what I was talking about.
What were you talking about?
The DK trade.
I thought that was on free. Okay.
Well, that was the night before.
Myles happened before also, though.
All right, yeah, you got it, yeah.
Anyways, Myles Garrett requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns because he was just sick of their antics. You're not going to win anything in Cleveland. And then they went up to him and offered him 4 years, $160 million, and all of a sudden Myles Garrett loved being a Cleveland Brown. I wonder why. I honestly wonder why. And then he said in an interview the other day, I think this was yesterday, that I signed there to win. My brother, you did not sign there to win. You got offered $40 million. If anyone gets offered that, you're staying in Cleveland. He's going to lose games the rest of his career, but he's going to be set for life. As a Steelers fan, what do you feel about this?
The Browns are the Browns. Oh, they're so bad. Good for them for keeping the only relevant player to ever put that jersey on. But, it's a clear overpay. The Browns are still going to be terrible. I don't even know where they're getting this money from because they have the Deshaun Watson contract. They're just, sorcering it out of the thin air. But they're going to continue to be terrible. They're going to miss on all their draft picks. He's not going to win it all. He goes into the media and he goes, "Oh yeah, it was never Cleveland. It was never about the money. It was about winning." Oh really? Because that's the exact opposite of what you said when you did request a trade. So a little bit of conflicting interest there for Myles Garrett. In all seriousness, he's your franchise player. I don't think there should really be a price limit. They did the right thing for once, giving them a little credit there. You do whatever it takes to keep your franchise player there. And I think $40 million a year for a guy who contributes as much as Myles Garrett does, I don't think it's too ridiculous. I think it's not as terrible as people are saying. And it makes sense for the Browns because they're not going to be spending that money anywhere that's going to make them compete this year. And so you just want to keep face and keep the fans from giving up on the team. That's what I have to say.
All right, you move on to Pittsburgh Steelers.
The Steelers are back, baby.
You don't have a quarterback.
They're back. We don't need a quarterback. We have DK Metcalf and George Pickens, and don't forget small reek Calvin Austin. The Steelers went out the night before free agency. They went out and traded a second-round pick who's going to turn into a literal nobody that no one's even going to remember for DK Metcalf and sign him to a 5-year deal. I don't care. No one is telling me that was an overpay. The Steelers have had the cheapest offense in the league for like 5 years now, and we finally go make a huge move. We're turning the tide. We're turning the narrative. The Steelers are going to the Super Bowl.
Going 8-9.
The parade has been planned. Once Rodgers signs, it's over for the league, quite frankly. I mean, DK Metcalf and George Pickens, they might average more offensive penalties than touchdowns, but it doesn't matter because they're going to average like 100 per game of both. So, I think we're going to the Super Bowl. What do you think about this move?
You're going 9-8 and losing first round to like Buffalo or something. But I think it's a great move. Pittsburgh needed a second wide receiver. They were rocking with Van Jefferson before that. That's not going to work. And Seattle looking to move on from DK with that expensive contract that he had and wanted out. If you keep him around, he's just going to get even more mad at you. So sending him off to Pittsburgh was the right move for them. And Pittsburgh's really going to benefit from this. They really haven't had a number 2 option in a long time. And whoever their quarterback is, maybe it's Aaron Rodgers, maybe it's Russell Wilson, maybe it's some guy in the draft, maybe it's Shedeur Sanders. But whoever gets him is going to benefit really much. And I'm just kidding about Shedeur Sanders there.
It's Tyler's show, baby.
Tyler show.
The show must go on. We're back after a slight technical issue there, but as we were talking about, Tyler Show is going to be the quarterback of the Steelers. No, but so yeah, big fan of the DK Metcalf move. I think we're going to finally have a confident offense or a competent offense to go along with a pretty good defense. Speaking of that defense, we also made a really nice move that I liked on day 2 of free agency, I think, maybe day 3. Well, it was weird. It was announced on day 1, and then it wasn't official till later. We signed Darius Slay to a 1-year, $10 million deal. I really like this move because he's a good mentor for Joey Porter Jr., and he's reuniting with his defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin, who was also his defensive coordinator in Detroit. And he said he was really excited about that. He's also really excited to play for Mike Tomlin. So, yeah, nice fit there. Hopefully it turns into more of a Joe Hayden signing than a Patrick Peterson because that was a little rough, and he's getting up there in age. It's a 1-year deal, low risk, high reward. I'm all for it. What do you think?
I like that move. Darius Slay verbally expressed that he wants to play for Pittsburgh or go back home to Detroit or the Eagles, and he got his wish, gets to play for Mike Tomlin, gets to play for a great defense. A little bit of concerns about his age up there, but it's a 1-year deal. Like you said, not too much of a risk, but you could get a great reward from that. And we're going to move on to another Steeler. Justin Fields has signed with the New York Jets for 2 years, $40 million, and I really like this deal. Not too expensive of a deal for a player who has proven he can play. He's proven he can start at a high level. We saw that in Pittsburgh this past season, but they decided to start Russell Wilson. I don't know why that happened. Justin Fields was playing amazing. But you got a young player like Fields going to New York. You know, quarterbacks don't have the best track record there. We'll see if he can flip the switch there. But I really like this move for New York, and I feel like he has a chance to redeem himself in the NFL. What do you think?
I wouldn't say Fields was playing excellent. I mean, he was averaging about 150 yards per game. He was good. I mean, he's a good player. I think he's overrated because of his aura. And I think there was no way the Steelers were giving a 2-year, $40 million deal to Justin Fields. I think we're going to go after Aaron Rodgers. The Jets are cursed. I feel bad for him being stuck in such a poverty franchise. We'll see if it works somehow. I don't expect it to. Not because of Fields, but because of the Jets. I mean, he went from Chicago to Pittsburgh to the Jets. Not exactly great for quarterbacks. You know, it's an interesting move. Maybe he'll get going reunited with his college teammate Garrett Wilson, but we'll see. On to what I think is the worst signing of free agency. Dan Moore to the Tennessee Titans. 4 years, $82 million. The Titans gave Dan Moore $20 million. How, I can't even begin to understand what they thought signing him to that deal. He was the worst tackle in football 2 years ago. This year, he wasn't much better. And I don't know where they got this idea that he's good. They gave him $20 million a year. He's awful. He's a backup. A bizarre move from the Titans. No wonder they're picking first overall. What do you think about this? Because
I feel bad for Cam Ward or whoever they decide to have at quarterback, because right now they don't have anybody, which probably will lead to Cam Ward going there since they didn't get to sign him.
Yeah, they have Will Levis.
Okay, they have Will Levis. But even if it's Will Levis, I feel bad for him because Dan Moore, I don't know too much about him, but I know that he is trash. And if you have Cam Ward, how is he going to do his nonchalant little gimmick when you have Dan Moore blocking your blind side? I don't get this move either. I think it's a terrible move. On to not a Steelers player for the first time in a little bit of time. Chris Godwin re-signed with the Bucs on a 3-year, $66 million deal. Chris Godwin, I predicted it last episode. I thought he was going to stay here. I feel like Tampa's his home. Tampa is where he wants to be. Him and Mike Evans have been a nice little duo since Jameis Winston played there. And Godwin led the league in receiving before he tore his ACL. So I really like this move. It's not too expensive of a deal, about $20 million a year, but I think it's worth it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a good move for the Bucs. Bring back Chris Godwin. I don't know how. I don't know if he'll match the same production as he did last year, coming off the ankle injury and losing their offensive coordinator. But I still think he'll be good. He's a good player. And him going back to Jacksonville, or not Jacksonville, him going back to Tampa Bay makes sense. So good, good for him. I wanted to move on to more of a team, but two specific moves that they made. The New York Giants. I'm actually, kind of on board with what they did. They didn't address the O-line too well. Like Stone Forsythe is horrible. He's just as bad as Dan Moore. But they did really well in the secondary. They got Paulson Adebo from Dom's Saints and Javon Holland, two good young DBs that are going to
pass interference.
They're going to reshape that secondary back there. They lost Xavier McKinney last year because they were all that was a Saquon offseason.
Yeah, well,
they were all tied up with Daniel Jones and Saquon and all that, so they lost Xavier McKinney. But they kind of made up for it here, bringing in Javon Holland. I like that fit. And Paulson Adebo is a pretty good player. I don't think they paid him too much either. I don't know the contract details, but I remember thinking, wow, that's pretty good for Adebo. And so, yeah, maybe the Giants will look a little bit better than they have going forward. I'm still a little suspect on that offense outside of Malik Neighbors. It's no quarterback. I know I just said like 5 minutes ago that the Steelers don't need a quarterback, but the Giants do because we're biased here on Gridiron Across the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
I'm just going to speak mainly on Adebo because I've suffered through a lot of Paulson Adebo, and I've also been excited through a lot of it. He will get you interceptions. He will get that football, but it's going to come at the risk of about 3 pass interference penalties a game. Feels like every game for the Saints, you take a deep shot on Adebo, there's going to be a flag thrown. It all eventually ended once he suffered a pretty bad injury this year, had to be air casted off the field, so I don't know how his recovery is going to be going into next season. But Adebo will get you interceptions. He'll get takeaways. I remember one game, it was like his second season or something. He had like 2 forced fumbles, 2 picks in one game or something like that. It was a great game, but he's a playmaker for defenses. Just watch out for the deep bombs because he's either going to get absolutely torched and commit pass interference. And going to move on to, we almost forgot this one. Davante Adams signs with the Los Angeles Rams. I don't know how we almost forgot that one, but I like this move for them. Davante, don't know, he grew up in LA, right? Or was it San?
I think so, because he went to Fresno State, so probably.
Yeah, grew up in California, lived there, went to college there, high school. Now he goes to return his NFL career there. I like this move for the Rams. You're getting a hometown player who's still a really good player at over 1,000 yards last season, and he was playing for the Jets and the Raiders, so that is a hard thing to do right there. But I think it's going to benefit their offense. Great. Stafford gets another target to go to. Puka Nacua changes number to 12 to let Devontae get that 17. What do you think on that move?
Yeah, I mean, part of me wanted him on the Steelers, but once we got DK, I was ecstatic. I think what happened is Davante Adams signed about an hour before, and then the Steelers made the move for DK, which makes me think they were in on him because the timing makes sense. Like, they traded for DK an hour after it happened. So, but I think it's a good fit with the Rams. They got rid of Cooper Kupp because they signed him. Him and Puka are going to be a fun duo to watch next season. See if the Rams can get back to where they were this year, even though at the beginning of the offseason, it looks like they were ready to blow it up. But I think they've nicely shaped themselves going forward.
Yeah, and I'm going to cover a big part of a team right here in the NFC West. Also, the Seattle Seahawks have done a complete roster reshuffle, it seems like. First off, they traded Geno Smith to the Raiders. Then they cut Tyler Lockett and traded DK Metcalf. It was just Jackson Smith and Jigba all alone there. But then people thought they were blowing it up, going to go into a rebuild. They were definitely not doing that. Signed Sam Darnold, 3 years, $100 million. Brought in Cooper Kupp, like you said. And another sneaky move that I really like is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Clint Kubiak, hear me out here. Clint Kubiak is the new offensive coordinator of the Seahawks. I'm still kind of mad about that. But if you look back last season, MVS had insane games for the Saints. He had like 5 100-yard games or something like that. And he was catching deep balls after deep balls. And I like the receiver trio here with Kubiak's scheme. You got 2 great slot receivers. You got JSN and Cooper Kupp. Clint Kubiak likes to run a lot of 2 receiver personnels with both of them towards the middle of the field. So I feel like with both their talent skills, it's just going to open up a lot of passing opportunities for them. And Sam Darnold, we saw what he did in Minnesota with 2 good receivers and a good system. Now he gets a good system of receivers again. So they're hoping he can match that production. What do you think?
Yeah, I think like you mentioned, scheme-wise, I think they did good because Kubiak comes from that Kyle Shanahan tree, and they like to get into these heavy sets like you were talking about, maybe 7 linemen, 2 closer to the set receivers, and they want to run the ball and then play the play action off the run. And I think when you have 2 good running backs in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, I think that's what they were looking to do when they hired Clint Kubiak, kind of get that run game going instead of just hucking it downfield with Ryan Grubb. And I think that's part of the reason why they got rid of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, because they turned them into this one-dimensional spread offense where it was just launch the ball down the field and hope for the best. But now, the way they've reshaped their roster and their coaching staffs, they're going to look to get Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet more involved and kind of build off that run and become more two-dimensional instead of one-dimensional. I think it's going to help them in the long run. I think they're going to be built for more later in the season success than they were with just launching it with Geno. I think Geno was leading the league in passing yards at one point. There's no reason he should be doing that. Speaking of, they traded him to the Raiders. That messed up my lock that I talked about.
Yeah.
But, the Seahawks are interesting. Everyone thought when they got rid of Lockett and DK Metcalf, they were headed, and Geno Smith, they were headed for a rebuild. And then all of a sudden, a week later, they're back in contention for the weakened NFC West. I think definitely an interesting situation. I'm intrigued to see what happens this year.
Yeah, 100%. You want to get into the story of every single offseason, Mr. Aaron Rodgers.
The enigma, Aaron Rodgers. This is bizarre. It's not bizarre. It would be bizarre for literally anybody else. But for Aaron Rodgers, it really isn't. This dude just loves attention. The pictures surfaced online of him at the beach with his headphones in, contemplating his future. It looks like it's between the Steelers, the Giants, maybe the Vikings, and retirement. I've learned not to get my hopes up as a Steelers fan. We already got DK Metcalf, so my prediction is he either goes to the Vikings or he retires. It's a bizarre situation, honestly. I think he's still much better than people give him credit for. He didn't play bad last year on the Jets. And once again, it's the Jets. They're dysfunctional.
Yeah.
So I think whatever team he goes to, if he does go to a team, he'll be decent and he'll be, leading them forward. But, we'll see. Hopefully it's the Steelers where he can just launch it to DK and Pickens just like I told Seattle they shouldn't do. I'm so contradicting myself. What do you think? I'm talking too much.
I think he wants to play for the Vikings. He's making that pretty obvious there. He wants to go that Brett Favre route. He just better not follow the Brett Favre after retirement route.
He wants to be a Steeler.
I don't think he wants to be a Steeler. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But I don't see him going to the Giants in no way. There's no way he's going back to New York. So I think it's either Minnesota, maybe Pittsburgh, or retirement. But I feel like
maybe Pittsburgh. I'm pretty sure we're the betting odds favorites by minus 350 right now. Hello?
Pittsburgh just get every good player in your mind?
Yeah. Yeah, always. The hypothetical Steelers would be on their 9th straight Super Bowl right now. You don't even understand. You're not cultured enough in Pittsburgh, in Yinzer to understand.
Who is more hypothetical, the Chargers or the Steelers fans?
The Chargers fans' existence is hypothetical.
What if Justin Herbert had DK Metcalf? What if? Instead, they got Mike Williams, though. I know. Big move. I know that really hurts your heart as a Steelers fan. So many catches, so many moments.
That 5th-round pick, man, I'm devastated.
That 5th-round pick. Such a sad time to see that 5th-round pick go. But a little bit of yapping there. And another NFC West team, this one is actually rebuilding. The 49ers absolutely blew it up in this offseason. They lost so many players. They lost Hufanga and Greenlaw to the Broncos. They lost Aaron Banks. They lost Elijah Mitchell. They lost Deebo Samuel, but I don't think that's going to make too much of a difference. They're thinking about trading Brandon Ayuk. Christian McCaffrey's old. Who else? They lost a lot. Who else did they lose? I know they lost. They lost Javon Hargrave.
Tarvarius
Ward. They just
Hufanga.
Yeah, Hufanga. They lost so many people this offseason. Their Super Bowl window is officially closed now. It's crazy to think they were just in, and now they're absolutely blowing it up. They're getting ready to pay Brock Purdy that $40 million to be mid. But San Fran's reign of playoff contention is over. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they still might make the playoffs, but I think their Super Bowl window is closed. Brock Purdy's payday's coming up, and I think it's just downhill from there. I thought for sure they were going to get Joey Bosa, but he ends up going to Buffalo because they didn't want to pay him an extra $2.5 million.
Okay, to pair up some brothers.
So I don't know. It's looking bleak for San Fran. But yeah. That's about it, I think.
Yeah, it's about all we got for today. So thank you guys for watching episode 19 of Gridiron Across the U.S. Kevin is headed to Dubai. So
there won't be any episode next week because I'm going to be a little far away. I'm going to be in Dubai. So, no recording, no possible recording there.
Yeah, so with no recording there, we will be back in 2 weeks. Maybe Aaron Rodgers will have signed by then, or maybe he'll be sitting on a beach somewhere.
Maybe.
A slight chance right there. And maybe Russell Wilson will sign. I don't know what he's waiting for. Maybe he's waiting for Rodgers.
And by the time we'll come back, it'll be just under a month until the draft, so we'll get more into we'll get some more draft based stuff going by then. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.